We live in a fast-paced world where many people are too busy to sit down and read books or news articles. But thanks to Newsly, you can now listen to the news you wish you had the time to read. By utilizing AI technology, a natural human voice reads you the news, helping you grasp the information faster and more efficiently. Newsly provides the latest news updates 24/7, letting you browse articles from topics you choose. It even has podcasts, including ours. And listeners of Rabbit Holes can get their first 30 days of premium for free, allowing you to enjoy an ad-free experience by using the special promo code in our episode description. So download Newsly today for free on iOS and Android, or visit www.newsly.me so you can stay updated on the things that matter to you.
Moving forward.
Aloha kako everyone, and welcome to Rabbit Holes, your weekly foray into the minds unknown of nobles and beyond. And I am your host, Kawika Hoke, and with me, as always, my plucky counterpart, Sarah Rodriguez. Say hello, Sarah.
Hello everybody.
So, we come to you weekly to wherever your podcasts be found. And I think before we get into, the show itself, we should probably just, give a little background, a little syllabus about who we be, where we be from. And I would really like to turn to Sarah and just kind of, tell us what you be, Sarah. Who are you? What makes you tick? Why should we love you?
What I be? Shit, man. I feel like we both are a lot of things. So, I'm originally an actress. I've been acting since I was 9 years old. Started in theater, did modeling when I was younger, and eventually started in getting more interested in TV and film work. Since then, I've been training, doing a lot of fun stuff. Like I've had local TV shows, local radio shows here on Maui, and also did a lot of live television here on Maui. So yeah, that basically sums me up. Just recently this past year, I've gotten some great bookings and gotten some bigger roles in some films. And yeah, so now we're just here going over some really fun topics and having fun with you guys.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of roll into the knowing of the Sarah parts, is that end part of the bio, she kind of did my end part of my bio too, so I only have to tell you about the beginning of me. So those who know me and those who don't, Kawika Hoke, bane of everyone's existence, production coordinator, all around fix-it guy, has been, should be, and once was, and then ended up more active on set in these last couple years and ran into Miss Sarah, and we found each other, as friends do, and then realized, hey, I've got nothing to do for my evenings on the weekends, because I'm a parent, but I need content. And then we found you, our listeners, our happy little rabbits. So thank you for joining us today for what could be one of many more, hopefully. Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah. I don't know if she could even, I don't even know what her face looks like right now because she's on the other side of the Pacific via a phone. So I don't know if she's rolling her eyes at me or that's just buffering. But we shall see.
No, it's buffering. It's
buffering. But back to reality.
Right?
So yeah, it's, I have to say that, like, I mean, we could cover just about anything on this show. We all know what's been going on in the world, folks. You know, the pandemic is endemic. The end times is nigh. We're not going to get too crazy into the, COVID. Can we say COVID? I don't know. The second that you say COVID, the algorithm's going to get you, though. So, I mean, I don't know. That's like saying Macbeth in a theater or something. Should I have said that on a... Don't say COVID on a podcast.
Then, right? COVID.
Hey, but if you say wrong things about your COVID, Neil Young will come for you in your sleep and deplatform himself.
Yeah, that.
Poor Neil Young. Hey, man, my Spotify playlist is all weird now. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up. I mean, everybody else is gonna bring it up this week. Yeah, like, I mean, did you hear about, like, the Joe Rogan thing?
I did. So at first there was some, he said some stuff about vaccinations that people did not agree with, right? And then it turned into him saying racist things.
Yeah,
right?
Well, he's got a clip show racist things, and there's plenty of other shows on YouTube and whatnot, and there's even some Twitter accounts that have been doing a great replay of all the fantastic ways that he can say colorful phrases about colorful people. Yeah, decide what you will about him there. But, the bigger discrepancy with him has been that he's kind of opened the door to, people with, ridiculous points of view, or, I shouldn't say ridiculous points of view. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I will have to say they have cherry-picked the data. And I actually got, like, half of my podcasts this week got disrupted from this whole debacle because everybody was like, you know what, we have to talk about this. And just because of that, like, it's changed the whole opening of this show, and now we have to, it's like that Encanto song. We don't talk about Bruno, it's you don't talk about Rogan. Or you just don't talk about COVID. Bruno, I don't know.
We gotta talk about him too.
Yeah, no, it's all the things. Yeah, so I just, there's some really great scientific podcasts that covered it.
I understand why people are upset, but I do love that he's bringing on so many controversial things and talking about controversial. I mean, that's what makes it, and I think everybody needs to hear everybody's, like, perspective on different topics, even if it is ridiculous to us.
Yes, but I think it has to be presented in such a way that, like, I'm okay with trotting out a tinfoil hat every once in a while, or someone who misrepresents the data or happens to be fudging something for their own agenda every once in a while, because everybody's got to be able to see people for their opportunity to speak their own mind. But at the same time, we should also be warily putting an asterisk next to that person's name and just letting people know that, like, hey, he's not very reputable in most circles, and you really need to reconsider, here's all the other data, like, I mean, to that degree, I feel if some people feel that...
That what the issue is? He's not providing, like, he's just letting anybody basically say whatever they want, and people are taking that as actual fact. Is that what the uproar is about?
I think what more of the uproar is that now that he's bankrolled by Spotify, his show's never really been held to an accountability. So, like, he doesn't do fact-checking.
Oh.
You have to remember that he's, like, shock jock era, like, AM radio type of guy, So it's not, I mean, he's used to, like, doing a show for, like, 6 hours straight on the air, and who cares about a fact check? We're trying to get through the 3 o'clock rush hour and give you the news and give away concert tickets to Babylon and Rome.
Content doesn't even matter what it is.
Yeah, so, like, I just think that, like, so I think in one aspect, where I will play devil's advocate for him is that he's kind of, I don't think him or his team or the powers that be even at Spotify that bought him realized the can of snakes that they got themselves, because I don't think they, like, realized that there was no accountability system inside of his own show. And so it's like, this is a guy who's kind of gone unchecked because not many people realize how deregulated the FCC is. So it's not like the FCC would have come after him for all these years.
Right.
The FCC is not some boogeyman hiding around the corner anymore. Like, long gone are those years. I mean, like, the last...
Basically, Spotify should have done research beforehand then, right?
Yes.
And realize, like, hey, this guy...
Yeah. I mean,
aren't actually...
As executive producers, the onus is on them.
On Spotify.
Yeah.
No. Joe Rogan.
Yeah. No, I got to give it to you there. Like, I can't blame Joe Rogan for the fact that somebody signed a contract with him, knowing very well the crazy he was going to bring them.
Very well.
Yes. You know who punched it?
Exactly. They should have done their research then.
Before you punch your dance card, figure that shit out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spotify. Did you see those memes with, like, Milli Vanilli or whatever? Like, oh, we're going to pull our stuff from other people's music from Spotify. I died. Did you see
If it was Milli Vanilli, I would have sided with Joe Rogan on day one. But you know what? Neil Young and Joni Mitchell walked away. So, like, that's like, if I'm feeling emo on a Monday, there goes half of my playlist. And, I mean, I'm not, like, the biggest Neil Young fan, but, like, there are a few standout songs for being a child of the 80s and the 90s that, like, Neil Young kind of fits into. And so there's kind of a couple that have, like, snuck onto my playlists over the years as I've become older. And I will have to say, the second he was gone, the void in my playlist caused me to get rid of certain playlists because of his influence on them. That missing void left me with, like, weird B-side tracks from bands that I have not cared to listen to since I was, like...
You're completely screwed up.
Yeah. So, you know what? I will take Neil Young's side because it's, you know what? I already miss Neil enough. The algorithm is fighting hard for me and it can't provide right now. I really haven't listened to a lot of music outside of my safe playlists because of it. Like, there aren't a lot of women that compare to Joni Mitchell. So, like, to really, like... That's a lot of, like, data that Spotify knows about me, you know, about those artists that influence the other songs that I listen to or the genres that I try, you know? So it's like, it's weird. But
it is weird.
Did you ever really have an opinion about Joe Rogan before any of this, though?
You know, I have. I've seen stuff on, like, YouTube, you know. I think when I was really into my, like, holistic health kick, he had some people that did, like, a lot of alternative medicine on his show that I thought was, like...
You got him in his, like, Dr. Oz face. So just after his here, eat these chicken gizzards on primetime television phase. So just after he got to bad reality show host, but, like, right before MMA.
I think so. I'm not sure. It was on YouTube, and I think I found him randomly. I'd never heard him before. And then actually after, like, maybe a year later, I started hearing about him more and more and realized just how popular he was. But yeah, I watched a little bit of it, and I like his show. He's a phenomenal interviewer. Like, he's extremely talented.
I will say that. I will agree there.
He flows, you know?
Yeah, no, he does. He has a really good flow to him. I can see why everybody from, like, the, you know, intelligente all the way down to, like, the working type of guy that just would listen to him. Like, and he has a wide selection.
All relate to him. Very laid back, relatable type of person.
Yeah, he's like one stoner step below, like, parts unknown, you know? So it's like, it's just... It's that guy that you get lost with at a cannabis fair, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll make friends with everybody." He's that random surfer dude that slept on everybody's couch.
You nailed it. Exactly.
Yeah. He's that guy in the quad that, like, you're like, what? Who does he hang out with? Is he a skater guy or is he an emo punk? No, he's all the crowds.
You don't know. He could fit into any group.
Exactly. And that's the funny thing is, like, you know, especially if you look at Joe Rogan over the years from, like, scrawny NBC primetime reality junkie TV show host to, like, yoked post-MMA Joe Rogan, it's like, those are, like, 5 different guys in between. So I will say that he's lived a very, like...
so many characters in his...
Exactly. He's done a wide variety. I think that he's smart enough to know, to a degree, through all the things that he's touched and understood, from a making television level to a making radio level. Absolutely. And, you know, having to produce his own content. So I think a part of him knows very well what he's doing by having these types of people, but I just don't I don't think that he...
Absolutely, it's a marketing thing, for sure. He wants people to be controversial. I mean, what do they say? Any publicity is good publicity. Who's talking about him? We're all talking about him. So it doesn't really matter if he kind of messed up a little bit. He's still getting talked about. And isn't that the end goal for a performer?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, enough about the current king of controversy. You know what? I would love to talk about the queen of good news for just a moment here. So like she has been, I have to say, I don't care what anybody says about the woman. Also, all you COVID conspiracy theorists, whatever, I don't care. The woman who saved this country from peril, Dolly Parton, continues to be
Dolly Parton, people. Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Right.
Yeah, no, she continues to be an amazing facet of current American history. You know, so after her long stint of throwing millions at, vaccine production and research, thank you there. But now, like, she's raising the bar.
I didn't know she did that. Did she really?
You didn't know that? Yeah. So, like, so here, that's like... Yeah, so that's one of the first things I try to throw at people when they pull the whole COVID's a conspiracy created by the government. I'm like, no, the COVID vaccine was created by a bunch of geriatric Turkish German people who were bankrolled by Pfizer and Dolly Parton. So it's like it's so hayseed. Well, so she dropped $11 million down on hey, I'd love to help save the world, and she just threw it at them. She gave them an R&D loan for vaccine development and production. And that core research is why we have the vaccine as fast as we have it.
Round of applause.
Exactly. So anytime you get somebody who wants to you just want to rip your remaining hair out because they're they believe in weird tinfoil hat things, and you go, you know what? It can't be evil if Dolly Parton's about it. And that's how I disarm them.
Dolly Parton's heart behind it, it must have good energy,
exactly.
Right? It must.
Exactly. She know what it'd be like.
She can't do no wrong.
Exactly, and she continues to do no wrong.
A little bit more.
Yeah, no, I've decided that because of this next thing that she did, that I'm gonna send all of my future children to go work at Dollywood, because that's
what
that
else
way.
Is she
So she just announced this.
Dolly?
She just announced this last week that all Dollywood employees will get free tuition for anything.
Dolly.
You could be anywhere in the company, and tuition and books are covered. And I'm sure to a reasonable degree, you can't exploit the system, yada yada yada. But essentially, she's making it to where student loans don't have to be a problem because Dolly got you, baby.
Oh, Dolly got everybody. Dolly got the whole damn world with her research money. Go, Dolly.
Yeah. So I would even consider going back to a 9-to-5 job if that meant I get to go to college again, but for free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much in that one.
I think that's absolutely legit. Yeah. And then another thing, because I'm just going to give her the shout out, because this is something really cool that, if there are any parents out there that are listening, and this is, one of the big things that put Dolly on my radar is I didn't know that she did this until after the whole COVID bailout thing that she did. So then I started, looking into more of the cool stuff that she does, and so what I found was that there's this, if you have kids under 5, you can get free books for them until they're 5 years old. She has this really cool nonprofit called the Imagination Library, and you can check it out at imaginationlibrary.com. And you sign your kid up, sign your grandkid up, sign your friend's kid up. Either way, as long as they're under 5 years old, the day that they're born, you can sign them up, and they get a free book every month until the day they turn 5. And then I guess after that, they got to go to the public library.
Man, Dolly, you giving free books away to children?
Yeah.
Wow. So wait, what's the website again?
Imaginationlibrary.com? Imaginationlibrary.com. Yes.
There you go, guys. Check that out if you have children under 5 for a free book every month. How cool is that?
It's pretty badass.
What we got for some current Kawika?
Starbucks is kind of in a funky place right now. I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm not much of a Starbucks person. I don't like burned beans. I mean, they just, everything's heated to the same temperature. Not many people know that, like, coffee comes in varying degrees. But I can get on my coffee high horse all day. But apparently, like, baristas are trying to unionize now, and Starbucks doesn't like it. And, I mean, I'm pro-union, but I'm only, like, pro-good union, and I'm guessing, like, everything going forth right now, what these people are trying to do, but what?
What are they asking for?
Well, I mean, see, and that's the interesting thing is because, like, I mean, Starbucks does give a lot of amazing perks. So, I mean, I would really have to, like, understand it more from the Starbucks employee point of view. Like, that would have to be, like, a lot more harder research to understand that.
Is Starbucks doing something that shouldn't be? Are they, not paying them well? Are they not? Yeah, like, why?
Yeah,
why,
and
something
I quite frankly, the way that I'm feeling it, it's a district to district problem, because there's some areas where the whole chain of command, it's peachy and everybody gets what they want. But I think what we're running into is that there are certain areas and districts of the Starbucks game that are just not as well attended to because they don't have as good of a management staff in those divisions. So there's a lot of plight and issues with the workers.
Some consistency then. There was some consistency across the board.
Yeah, so I think that's where, like, the unionizing effort is going towards, is just to pick up that slack. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not really helping Starbucks too much when they're firing employees with loose excuses by saying that, their efforts to hold union activities on off hours, which, again, that's something that they probably shouldn't have been doing. I mean, if you're gonna try to hold, like, a meeting for the resistance, don't, like, hold it on your boss's front porch. Like, go meet at, like, the local bar or something, or go take some business elsewhere. But at this, so, like, in one aspect, like, hey, you're getting fired for having an ex parte meeting and off business hours in our business, but at the same time, it's like, it's kind of a shady way to get rid of the competition. God only knows that when eventually those unions get established, those people will probably be back and waiting to sign a deal for, like, some settlement money for their time lost or something.
Yeah.
But enough about Starbucks. Man, I don't know. They just kind of itch at me sometimes. But so, like, weird thing though, moving along, how much do you know about Bitcoin, Sarah? Are you big into NFTs, Bitcoin?
No, I've tried to understand Bitcoin many times because, like, the past couple of years, everybody's obviously talking about it. I seriously do not understand how it works. Is it legit? Is it a scam? Is it actual money? Is it in your pocket? Is it in another country? Like, what the hell is going on with this Bitcoin?
Well, first of all, Sarah, it's in the cloud. No, no, it's legit. It's just
with my videos and pictures I don't want anyone to see.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, to give you the long and short of it, Bitcoin is legitimate to a degree.
To a degree. See, that's why everyone always kind of says, yeah, I mean, it's
well, see, the thing is it's a way to introduce new currencies, and the problem is you then have to find a way to put a value in the currency. So, and the currency really only has value once it's exchanged from that currency
into your currency.
Yeah, so unless you see it in a currency that you know how to use, it's not tangible to you. But there are some people that will just trade a bit wallet straight for value. So, I mean, there are enough ATM machines now on the mainland where people can, like, put their bit wallet in. They'll have to go to some fancy schmancy ATM, though. But then they can actually, like...
You can cash it in for real money. Like, it's like going to, like, the currency exchange and exchanging your Bitcoin for American dollars. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah, but instead, it's really just an ATM. Like, in a lot of the places on the mainland, it's an ATM. I mean, anywhere else, you kind of have to, like, do a hard exchange with someone and then exchange tokens and then write a check or something. But there are places throughout the contiguous United States that you can take your Bit wallet to or place an order to pick up from an ATM.
So why would you want it? It's valued right now. It's valued less than the American dollar, and it will.
I mean, it depends on what coin you have. I mean, Bitcoin itself is worth thousands, you know. So I mean, that can go up at any minute.
So why would you buy it if you need to just convert it? If it's the same amount, let's say I spent $1,000 to get a Bitcoin. And then I cash it in. How much money am I actually getting after I cash it in?
Well, I mean, $1,000 won't get you like a whole Bitcoin. Like, because a Bitcoin's worth more than a few $1,000s.
So however much a Bitcoin costs, if I cash out that Bitcoin,
you can't day trade that. Yeah, you can't really. There's no day trading value in that. That's stuff that you have to sit on. Those are things that like you want to mature. A lot of coins were kind of made to be an index.
You're investing.
Exactly. And then, well, you know what? And that brings up a really good point, because you know what? I've actually been wanting to talk about this for a while. I've noticed quite a few friends on Instagram and on Facebook getting hacked by people and then offering them like weird day trade scams.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, So that happened to. So one, we have a mutual friend there, and then I actually have an old friend from high school that bugged me on Instagram, but then I found out like her account had been hacked after she did the deal with them, and then another person I knew shortly after that. But yeah, so like Bitcoin.
It's legit, but people are using it in not legit type of way.
Yeah, well, those people aren't even doing Bitcoin. So what those scams are purporting is that you can give them like $100 and they'll turn it into $1,000, or if you give them $10,000, they'll turn it into $90,000, right? And they'll do it through all these magical day trading maneuvers, and in just hours they'll cross a few date lines and magically give you a mountain of gold. That's not possible. Realistically, if you were to day trade just for like currency conversion, you'd have to be dealing in millions of dollars just to try to make like tens and thousands of dollars. It really just that's a rich man's game. Yeah,
so it's not even feasible for these people to even be playing that game.
Exactly. So you'd have to be playing with heavier numbers and stuff well beyond your access. The kind of things that, only like seasoned traders are going to be able to access, and portfolios they can play in because they have, they have bonded accounts and their money is going to come from real place. So, it's not this cowboy game that you can magically strike oil in a day. So kids out there in the interwebs, if someone tells you they can make you some Bitcoin money overnight, that's not how that works. Go find yourself something stupid and safe like Dogecoin, and just collect that like school bond checks.
Interesting. So you wouldn't do Bitcoin?
I would if I had real Bitcoin money. I'm not rich enough for Bitcoin. Talk to me after I'm worth like a quarter.
You play the Bitcoin game. You got to be rich to get richer, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel it is right now. Like, if I would have gotten Bitcoin like 10 years ago, hell yeah, that would have been a smart move. But like, not everybody's gonna get. Yeah, this is no different than like our parents going, "I should have bought Google stock." It's the same thing,
right?
So
right.
I went to school with a kid who bought stuff like that.
It's all making sense now. It's all making sense.
Yep. So, if you got some money to spend on it and you want to make some, that's cool. Learn how to get your toes, wet in the water of coin. Go on that journey. It's a fun and interesting place. I still don't understand the need for NFTs, though. But, yeah, have at it. Realistically, I'm still at the, hard assets phase of my life. I'd like to produce products and contents and services for boatloads of money that way instead. So why play the market when we could be pirates?
Yeah.
And And speaking of pirates, you know what? I would like to give a shout out to a pirate of a political nature this week. Mitch, if you're out there, Mitchie. I never really thought I'd agree with Mitch McConnell in my life. Well, you know what? Actually, before we go into this next segment, let me preface this with this. Everyone out there listening, I love politics. I watch politics. I eat it up. Personally, I consider myself more of a middle of the road guy. I've gone Democrat and Republican back and forth many years. I very much believe in voting for who what your community needs versus the party line, just because I grew up in hometown politics, and then Sarah here is kind of a blank slate for politics.
You eat it up, I throw it up. I don't understand it. It goes right over my head. So it's actually good that you know so much, because I do want to be up to date on current events and actually understand it, because a lot of people talk about it and I pretend like I know what they're talking about, but I don't. So this is good.
All right. Well, then you know what? Well, then I will help you and anybody else out there listening. I'll help you chew the things so that way you don't want to throw them back up. I'll make, so that way you can occasionally put politics on your daily plate of news and then go, oh, I saw that. All right, cool. Moving on to better stuff, But, I totally get how, in the past decade, especially with the growth of social media and, just
I think it's just there's so many opposing opinions, so it's really hard to, figure out, to me, I'm it seems like everyone's lying. So it's is politics just which lie do I want to believe?
Yeah,
over the other one?
Sometimes I guess. Yeah, I think that there are those that have kind of spoiled the sport in that sense of politics, and they kind of leave this smoke screen of, if I'm lying, everybody else is lying, and it's no, it's just you, dude. There's kind of a who's who of people along the way. If you really start paying attention to your politicians, that you're oh, okay, yeah, most of what he says makes sense. And then there are other people Marjorie Greene Taylor, who's just batshit crazy and repeats anything that she sees on 4chan is true. Then there's those. So, it is kind of hard to swallow that, some places in our country that we would be able to be smart enough to, vote for doctors and lawyers and judges to be our assemblywomen and congressmen and stuff, but then in other necks of the woods we've kind of debased ourselves to just voting for whoever wants to kill the flavor of the weak minority. So it's kind of it's a hard American politics is a hard pill to swallow, especially since it's not as entertaining. It's not as entertaining as British politics.
You have to be full into politics to understand politics and constantly following what's happening.
Yes. Because at least at least for the sake of British citizens, for those people out there that don't like politics, they still watch it because those guys throw shoes in Parliament, Whereas the most that we ever get out, outside of the insanity of January 6th, there's nothing, there's nothing saucy or interesting about American politics. It's boring. It's dry. It's a lot of name calling and unnecessary meetings for meetings. So, the American public is bored with it.
So immature. Grown men calling each other names.
Well, and then it's also a lot of, the misogyny across the line, too. Because then you also have this whole air of men in politics that just, they don't even want to discuss real politics with women. They just defer by using all of the boogeyman features that they use about female lib representatives to just make their voters skin crawl. So then that way they don't even think about the person, and then they dehumanize the other politicians, and then they don't want to listen to them, and then they devalue what they say, and so nobody ends up listening to anyone. But But we'll hold each other's hands and we will navigate through as best we can.
Yeah. Do lead the way. Do lead the way.
Lead the way. Okay, so we're gonna start with Mitch McConnell. And now normally I go, Mitch McConnell bad. But this time
is he Republican or is he
he is a Republican. And these days, the Republicans are kind of a thorn in the side of the American people. I mean, I will say I have some qualms with Democrats. They are kind of leading their way towards oligarchic rule lately. But Republicans are kind of team evil right now. And it needs to be recognized. And it's actually recognized enough to where Mitch here is actually, like, putting a line in the sand, which is crazy. So, like, the January 6th insurrection event.
So he's even like, man, we're so bad. We gotta stop being so bad. Even
Yes. And normally he's like the first one to make you eat shit. Like everybody goes, send him to Mitch. He'll make them eat shit. And normally he does. And he sticks his little turtle head out the door in front of the press and it goes, eat shit. And everybody eats shit because Mitch McConnell said to. He is. He's a little turtle. You know, and so normally I don't even like turn on the TV to Mitch because Mitch is usually just saying some like doom and gloom or he's just pointing blame at the Democrats. But I think that the ghost of John McCain must be haunting him in his sleep or something because like he's actually like towing a party line towards recognizing that the January 6th event was like, you know, on the verge of being considered a terrorist attack, which I absolutely think it was by all consideration.
It absolutely was, wasn't it? How is it not?
Absolutely.
In like a gray area.
Talk about the evidence. And then the crazier part is like all the people who were there that are like, it was peaceful. And it's like, you guys were on like all these weird alt-right social media platforms playing video from your phones. And then that's the crazier part is like the courts have evidence from so many of these people's phones and seeing them right there. And then like they interviewed one guy who's like, yeah, I tried to help a lady from a cop. And then you cut to the actual video of what happened and like the cop's not doing anything too terrible to the lady. But then the guy who's saying like, oh yeah, I was helping defend this poor defenseless woman, he's like trying to beat the cop to death. And the whole crowd's like railing on the cop. And all these people are like, yeah, the cop was being brutal. And it's like 20 people nearly shredded a man to pieces. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, like, I don't, you know, I mean, if people want to form their own opinion on this and say that I'm off my rocker, so be it. But, like, I mean, these people's own video from their own phones, from their own trusted platforms that they spew their hate speech on, like, that told the story. Like, I mean, that's exactly where I went on the day. Like, I didn't worry about the news. The news wasn't going to have that data fast enough. Like, all the hacktivists were...
the people that were actually there at the event, looking at, like, live videos and shit.
So, like, all the people on YouTube were already dumping all that data from all of those other places. And I must have watched at least, like, 3 hours of the insurrection, like, live in the moment while it was happening. I was just, like, weirded out. But, like, what's crazy through all of this is that the Republican Party has been, like, trying to keep on this agenda that, like, there wasn't anything too terribly bad about this day and that it was a peaceful protest and that nobody got... Exactly. Do you know how many Capitol Police officers, like... There are Capitol Police officers that have committed suicide because of that day. Like, that's how heavy this event was. Yeah. So, I mean...
it was trauma. Wasn't there people, like, hiding in their, like, offices and stuff, like, thinking they were gonna die? Like,
oh, yeah. We're talking about, like, it's some of these pages, it wasn't even, like, their first week. And they're, like, hiding in a bunker. Like, and what's even crazier is that to show from the data that they pulled from the phones from the people that were arrested at the Capitol and all, like, the pinging data on the private network, because not many people know this, but the second that you go inside the Capitol, you're on a private cell network. Everything is actually checked through the NSA before it goes out to your cell service tower. So everybody who broke in that day was willingly an accomplice to having their phones tapped because you have entered federal communication space.
Really?
Yes. So all these people who want to lie on television or misrepresent themselves, like, it doesn't matter. Their phones were tapped the second that they walked in there, and they accessed the network, or their phones pinged on the tower, and they are subject to search and seizure of all of that data. So if they want to start a coup, that's all on them. And so then the bigger part to take away from that is, like, all this data shows that they're in places that they shouldn't know how to get there. Which then leads the scarier question of how many people that worked within the Capitol led tours, made maps, gave away data to make that day successful. And to what degree is our government unsafe now because of how many moles exist within the infrastructure? Like, that's the craziest part about the Republican Party, is that Donald Trump spent 4 years screaming, it's a conspiracy, the deep state's out to get you, but the whole time he was creating a deep state. Like, that's all that tells me, is that, like, he's all like, he's just given this whole prophecy, a doom of what happens if you let the liberals be in charge, but in actuality, like, the real manipulation's coming from the guys that's in office, you know? And I think that was, like, the biggest misdirect of his presidency, is that he convinced everybody that all of the good things that they had then were good because he was president. And that all the bad things that we have now is because Joe Biden is president. Never mind the fact that, like, the only reason why those 4 years were good was because that was the economy that Obama left him. And the reason why that we're in the dump now is because that's the economy he left Biden. And, you know, and I feel that that's another thing that your average American doesn't understand, who inherits what. So what things that you can actually hold a president accountable for. You know, so it's just like, first 100 days of a presidency, who's really affecting the economy? The president from the last 4 years, not the guy that just entered office.
They're taking whatever the last president did, or trying to leg up on whatever the last president did. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So, Mitch Mcconnell has broken line with the Republican Party. And he's actually calling the insurrection an insurrection. He's calling a duck, which is interesting because, like, I didn't really see him and Liz Cheney teaming up anytime soon, even though they're technically in the same party. It's just never seemed like that they would ever, like, have each other's back these days. Like, I'm hoping that this is a sign that the Republican Party grows past Trump. But at the same time, I'm kind of afraid of, like, I mean, from a non-politics perspective, do you think he could get reelected?
No.
You don't think so?
Who? Biden?
Trump.
Oh, Trump. Oh, Trump? I think he could, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
that same...
that would back him up, and like what you just said, everyone thinks that Biden is the one that's messing everything up, but he's actually cleaning up what the mess that Trump made.
Exactly.
So, that makes total sense. It looks completely different from an outsider, but when you really look into it, it's like, well, wait a minute, like it's lagging, you know, it lags the president. So. Wasn't there something? Now, obviously, I'm not in politics, but I did hear, weren't they going to make it so he couldn't get reelected? Like, wasn't there talk about something where he couldn't get reelected?
Well, so here's the thing.
Or they were going to.
So if they managed to actually convict him on something hard for the insurrection, or if they could have actually gone past impeaching him and actually holding him accountable, they could have stopped him from becoming president. But as it currently sits, he has not been convicted of anything yet that the law has considered worthy of such statutes. So he's in the clear to run for president again.
Oh, God.
Exactly. And here's the thing. If they don't finish filing these charges before he runs, they can't. And if he makes it, they can't. he could get away with, like, it's just like when Bush got away with war crimes. It's like, just walk away, do, retire. And never held accountable again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just like when Nixon, you know what, I don't want to get impeached, I quit. And then Nixon just walked out. And then nobody thinks about that little piece of history when Nixon just like, Watergate? Oh shit, alright, deuces, I'm gone. And then like, we didn't really have a fanfare or anything, just people talk shit about him in the press for about 6 weeks, and then he disappeared, and we all just started making fun of Lyndon B. Johnson because he was a dopey-ass presidential replacement, you know? So, like, history has its way of fumbling things in favor of the idiots who want to rule the world. And on that note, we should take a break. I think that's a clean spot right there for a word from our sponsors.
Moving forward.
Every day, you make decisions that affect you and the people you care about. So do your elected officials. That's why elections are so important, because you are picking the leaders who will make choices that directly impact you and your community. Vote411.org is your tool for accurate and unbiased election information, whether you're registering to vote or learning more about your local candidates. Your vote is your megaphone. Use it to pick the leaders you trust. Get online, get the facts, and make your voice heard on Election Day.
Moving forward.
Okay, we are back from break. For those of you that weren't lucky enough to have a some kind of subscription service that gets rid of ads, sucks to be you. For the rest of us, we're back. And so this is the portion where we talk about all those silly consumerist things and pop culturally lovable items in our lives that we love, that we use to escape from reality, because God only knows if you don't obsess over something just a little bit, you might lose your mind in this world. So
very true.
So
very,
since
very
I talk way too damn much, Sarah, could you start? What are you watching these days, Sarah?
Oh, let me tell you what I've been watching these days. Have you watched You on Netflix yet?
You know, I kind of went through a Netflix dry phase. Everybody else in my house has like something to watch on Netflix, but not so much me lately. I have been kind of revisiting it, but I haven't watched You yet. Please go on.
Oh man, You is such a creepy, disturbing show. So it's basically about like this crazy serial killer that like rationalizes his obsession with women, and like he dates women, he falls in love with them, and then he eventually just kills them. And I'm not giving away like the big plot, like it's part of like even I think the first episode you realize, you know, he's a serial killer. But the way, it's so creepy. I think for girls too, specifically. Like, it's like you dive into this guy's mind, and the way he, like, thinks about the women, and, like, it's almost like he thinks that he's, like, a hero, and he's protecting them while he's, like, being super controlling and abusing them. Oh, it's so creepy. But, yeah, that's what I've been obsessed with that show lately. It's so well written. The acting is so good. It's a good one.
Interesting. All right, I'll have to check into that. That's the kind of It kind of fits into a lot of the stuff that I watch. I mean,
it might be steered towards women.
Huh?
I think it might be steered more towards women. I wonder if your wife has seen it.
See, there we go. Then we'll check there. I mean, I don't know. Like, do you think it like plays itself more off to like the Lifetime crowd or the NBC crowd?
I think more of the Lifetime crowd.
Okay.
Know?
See, yeah. So if it was more like
kind of steered towards women, but like it's always about women being abused. Like, I don't understand why I would want to watch it, but it's so like entertaining.
I don't know. Yeah. See, I'm more of a procedural like drama type of thriller person. So I'm more like Law and Order SVU. So like.
More like the detective kind of like murders and stuff, huh?
Yeah, that gumshoe type of stuff. I like, yeah. I could watch Mariska Hargitay and Ice-T all day.
What about Dexter? Do you remember Dexter?
I wasn't that big of a Dexter fan.
You kind of got like both of the worlds in Dexter because, like, you know, the girl was like the cop, but then you had like the serial killer mind, you know, that you're diving into. So it's kind of like a little bit of both styles.
I think I just never got into Dexter because I don't like that whole like celebrate the villain thing. Like I love a good villain. I'll say that. I love a good villain. But I think the American era of root for the bad guy has kind of taken like a weird psychological turn in character creation. So it's like, I'd like to some degree, like, I understand why a character like Dexter exists, because if it weren't for things like Boondock Saints, we wouldn't have Dexter. But in that same aspect, when you look at like Boondock Saints, like you're rooting for terrible people doing terrible things, but they do it in the name of what's good. You know, so I think that's where, like, I just never really had the stomach for the type of character that Dexter is, because I never saw myself to be a Dexter. Whereas I feel like a lot of the people that, like, celebrate Dexter...
Point. That is true. It is totally glorifying the villain. And, like, you do. The story rationalizes his feelings and why he does the things that he does. So you almost have a weird empathy, you know, and a weird, like, connection, because you're, like, seeing him so human.
Yeah.
And it's really messed up when you like that. Like,
which is weird because, like...
Lifetime and stuff. We're, like, watching, like, really disgusting things happen to other women, but for some reason we want to watch it. Like, that's so messed up.
Yeah. No, 100%. But, I mean, in that same aspect, though, like, I could watch Sopranos, not a problem, because I could watch Tony Soprano and go, oh, you're a piece of shit, but you have redeemable moments. Oh, but you're a piece of shit. And so that's so where really it's just like you're watching this terrible mirror of yourself. Whereas like Dexter it's a horror porn fantasy for people who wish that they could make change and then can't. So they'll sit in this little headcanon universe of, I'm just gonna do all the bad things to all the people who do bad in this world. And that's what Dexter is. And that's okay that he exists, but he's just not my cup of tea.
Interesting.
But what else you been watching?
What you've been watching?
Oh, what I've been watching?
Well,
I'll let you finish, and then I'll go.
Okay. I've been also watching White Lotus. That was filmed in Wailea, here on Maui.
Oh, yes.
Was it 4 seasons, I believe?
That was at the 4 seasons. And it even has regular walk-on appearances from a certain assistant director we know.
Really?
Have you seen
a walk-in appearance?
Have you seen all the Brad scenes?
Oh, yes, I have. I've seen him. I saw Patty.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Harry. Like, I specifically was looking in the background a lot of, like, the, you know, bigger, like, the dinner scenes and stuff to see, like, everybody, you know.
Yep,
like,
the who's who of, yes, all of our friends of the background scene, yes. It really showed you, like, how well Maui survived COVID, and we had just enough ensemble people to make a whole TV show happen for HBO.
And they had to quarantine there for, like, a month.
Yeah, that's what Brad said. They had to live there.
I have a kid that can't be quarantined for a month in a hotel.
Yeah, and not a bad gig. Not a bad gig at all.
Not a bad gig if you could swing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people up here on Maui that we know were on that show. So obviously I had to watch it. And it was done so good. Like, it literally, like, is watching The Tourist. Like, they're just very privileged, entitled, like, people with money acting ridiculous. And it was so entertaining and awesome. Did you watch it?
I've watched a couple episodes. I haven't finished it yet. You know, surprisingly, that wasn't, like, the number one ranking thing on HBO for me to watch as things came out on HBO. Like, I'm a documentaries first and foremost guy. So,
I love that.
Yeah, so I have not finished White Lotus yet. I did, however, I just finished Book of Boba Fett. That was, like, my biggest, like, I can keep on time with a TV show. Most TV shows I don't watch as they come out. I kind of just, like, let them come out, and then when I get to them...
What is it streaming on? A show?
Book of Boba Fett is on Disney Plus. It's a Star Wars universe movie, TV show. Sorry.
Do tell.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil too much, but obviously for the bigger Star Wars fans out there, it's about Boba Fett, and Boba Fett is one of the most badass bounty hunters the galaxy has ever seen. And at the end of Return of the Jedi in the original trilogy, we were always left to wonder what the fuck happened to Boba Fett after he got kicked in the Sarlacc pit by Luke and the gang at Jabba's barge.
Yeah.
And so, so this, as we learned on the last season of Mandalorian, Boba Fett's alive, and then they're like, how the fuck was he alive? And so, Book of Boba Fett tells us how he survived the Sarlacc pit, what he's been doing since then, and then what his quest is now. And I have to say, for those of you who have not watched it yet, please go forth. No, you do not necessarily have to watch Mandalorian to watch Book of Boba Fett, but it would be awesome if you did. Realistically, the most that you need is just 2 Star Wars movies to understand who the hell I'm talking about, and that's Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So if you don't know who Boba Fett is, please go back and watch Empire Strikes Back when he's first introduced, and you can see what I'm talking about. If not, you could just jump right into the show. Tamara Morrison plays Boba Fett.
And jump right in if they haven't seen it.
You could totally jump right in, but like, how many people how much Star Wars have you watched in your life? How much Star Wars do you know? Do you really know a lot of Star Wars?
I think I've definitely seen them multiple times, like all the old ones. You know, I've seen the newer one. Actually, did I see the newest? The newest one that I saw was with the girl Rey in it.
Yes.
Is that the last one?
Well, she's in the newest ones. Yeah, she's in the new three. Yeah. Did you see all 3 of the new ones?
I'm up to date then.
Okay, yeah, you're more or less. You've seen enough, or as much as the average person. Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't seen Star Wars, right? They're so good.
Yeah. No, some of them are. I mean, no, I watched a lot of them, even the animateds. They were pretty interesting. I will say that Boba Fett is really playing on to some fan nuances of my childhood, and I heartily enjoy it. So on the other end of my review right now for Book of Boba Fett, to those of you that are complaining out there that like they've ruined it to some degree, like, guys, please get over yourselves. What else would you have to? Please tell me in like 1,000 words or less how you would have done a better Boba Fett reveal than that, because quite frankly, I think that's exactly what we've all agreed upon in like the low talk of halls at Comic-Con sitting out every year since we was kids. So get over yourselves, enjoy the show for what it is. That's my review on Boba Fett.
Yeah, get over yourself. Get over yourself.
The only other like big fiction I've been watching lately is Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you've heard of the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. It is an epic series of fantasy novels. Like, this is like Game of Thrones, but 1,000,000 times better, and it doesn't have to rely on gore and F-bombs to get you there.
Is it like an Amazon Prime original? They've been putting out some good stuff lately, huh?
Yeah. No, they've been signing some good contracts. They've been making some good choices lately. Them and Apple TV have been making some pretty good choices.
They've been stepping it up.
Yeah. So for those of you that are into fantasy, I don't know if you like. I mean, this is like more of close to a PG-13 Game of Thrones. So it's Game of Thrones light. But it's definitely from a place long before Game of Thrones. Like, for those of you kids that are big into high fantasy, like, this is the motherlode. This is like one of like the biggest stories of our time is Wheel of Time. So like, I definitely say it's worth checking out. Like, I've considered Robert Jordan on the same quality as like the Hobbit books with Tolkien. I mean, it's nowhere near the same like class or style of like use of the English language. But his imagination really goes to a place that where like we hadn't gone to yet in fantasy, and so like he really So I take it you don't know what Wheel of Time is, and so I will give a small little explanation. Maybe you should go check it out, and you can let us know back on the show when when you have checked it out. But it is about a more or less like medieval style society. So they live in a more like stone and iron style age, but then there's magic, and so there is essentially like a point of the Force that they all tap into, kind of like Star Wars, and there's this magic, but it is only, as it's currently understood by this generation, it is only to be attuned by women, because men who seek its power will go insane and rip apart the world. So this society only exists with women who have power, and then the men who live in that society. And it's not like this stark, crazy society. It's everything's normal. It just happens to be the only people who have superpowers are women. And if you're a dude with superpowers, they're going to check you hard.
It's kind of like that on that movie Dune, too. Have you seen Dune?
Yeah. No, I will say that for it. I have read much of Dune, and I have seen many Dunes. This is not the first Dune, and it won't be the last Dune. But no, yeah, that politics are there are some similar politics between Dune and Wheel of Time. I will get down with that. But this is not riding giant worms on Arrakis. This is a bunch of kids on a quest through like the highlands and lowlands as they get chased by orcs and have to discover the power inside of themselves and potentially save all of mankind and its existence and connection to itself through reality and nature.
That sounds really badass, and I want to watch it.
Yeah. So the first season is on Amazon Prime. It got rated fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I was very happy with it, being someone who fell in love with the books, and so totally worth it. And then as far as nonfiction goes, the only Netflix thing that I have watched recently is Misha and the Wolves. If you want some like mind fuckery, go watch this. There is a woman who purported to have escaped the Nazis and then was raised by wolves, and that's how she survived World War II.
What?
But then, come to find out, she's a liar.
What? She a liar?
Yeah, no, so you spend like the first like 15, 20 minutes of the documentary like, wow, this lady's gone through some crazy shit, but like there's something coming around the corner now. What's that? Oh, she lied. And here's a real concentration camp victim who will tell us her story and then why this lady's a liar. And then so you spend the rest of the movie just like, that lady's a liar.
It's live.
Yeah.
It's live.
And that was that was short and sweet, but that's like the most of my Netflix viewing. But like the big thing I watched lately.
A documentary, even though you know that the bitch lied, like, will I still enjoy it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I spoiled too much because like half of the trailer is just saying that she lied.
Oh, okay. But how she got away with her lie?
Yeah, it's more of the machinations. You watch it for the train wreck.
I love it. I love train wrecks.
Yeah, just because I told you that the train crashed doesn't mean
I love it.
Yeah. Just because I tell you that the train crashed doesn't mean that like I've explained the whole crash. So yeah, it's worth checking out. Misha and the Wolves. It's in the documentary section on Netflix. Yeah. And then like my biggest things I've been consuming lately is, well, I just finished We Need to Talk About Cosby, and that is a whole nother can of worms and probably a whole nother episode of a podcast. But please do go check that out. Cosby was a great contribution to comedy, the arts, acting, unions, yada, 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 yada. But he was a piece of shit who raped a shit ton of women and used Quaaludes to do it and admitted to it multiple times. So
I've been wanting to see that. Where did you find the one on?
It's on Showtime. It's on Showtime.
On Showtime.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you gotta have Showtime. So yeah, they have the whole series up right now. It was a long journey to go on. There were a lot of times where like I like had to fight my childhood nuances of, yeah, that's the Cosby that made me the man I am today. And then it's like, fuck you, Cosby. Why you gotta be a terrible human being? Why do I have to question myself?
I gotta watch that one. I wanted
So
to see that.
it's a lot to swallow. It really is, especially for like he did make a huge impact on culture, you know, and we can't deny that. But then at the same time that we cannot deny the terrible things that he has done and admitted to.
Wow, and fully admitted to too, huh?
Well, so that's the crazier part is that so the fact that the public at large knows that he did it comes on the precedence that when he was in court, he was told under a grand jury deposition that he was supposed to 100% comply and say everything, and he would be given immunity. So then he admits in that deposition, like down to the T, like how he'd do it with their pudding pops and how he'd get them to bed. And then, but then that was like sealed. And then another judge came along and was like, nah, he says some terrible shit in there. We're unsealing that document. And then his lawyer went to appeals court and was like, no, bro, that challenges every reasoning behind why he said what he said. That's fruit of the poisonous tree. And so they were like, technically, even though it's unsealed, we have to treat it like it's sealed. So now he can go. And that's why Cosby went to jail and then got out of jail. Because his lawyer is worth every penny he paid for.
Whoa. The plot thickness.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
He just openly admitted everything if he was going to get off.
Yeah, well, he had immunity. He had immunity. They gave it to him. Yeah. Like there was nothing.
Yeah. You know, it's like he knows the nasty to be like, I'm just going to tell, you know, like even, oh, wow, that's just, I really need to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out. It's crazy. It's crazy. But enough about Cosby. You know, I've been trying to find something to like sanitize like my brain from all of these like terrible things that I watch, because I just like I have this thing for like the nightmare of humanity. I have to consume it. But then every once in a while I have to look at something derpy and lovable to remind me that life is worth living. So I stumbled upon the fact that like Disney is trying to turn Buzz Lightyear into a real thing. Like, not a Toy Story thing anymore. And not like a Buzz Lightyear Star Command like they did of the cartoon show before. Like, they're going to reboot Buzz Lightyear. And they're going to make him, like, real. Yeah. Like, Space Force real.
Dude, yeah, he should. They should do that. He was the best actor on that movie.
But it's going to be Chris Evans.
How many were there? 3?
There's 4 Toy Story movies.
4.
There was 4. And then there was like 6 micro shorts. I liked the Luau one. It was kind of crazy, but like no, the fourth one was really good. I thought 3 was done very well. 2 was kind of the iffy one for me, but like 4 really, especially for like the way that it was meant to reinvoke a reverse feeling from everything you had in the first movie. It was just, it was great. But
so do you think this one, is it like his story after Toy Story? Is it before Toy Story?
No. So he's real. So it's like we're going on Star Command missions. This is not like life before or after Andy's room. This is a real Buzz Lightyear who lives on Mars and fights a real Emperor Zurg.
Yay! All right. I'm totally going to watch that one.
Okay. All right. Well, at least that's one of us, because I don't know. I really don't know. I don't. I really don't. I really don't. But you know what? That, for as much as I don't know, you know what I do know about? Products and services. So we're going to, leave for products and services, and when we come back, we'll talk about things that I do know, like outer space.
Moving forward.
When you don't vote, what you're really doing is letting somebody else take power over your own life. You wouldn't give your grandmother the power to decide what clothes you wear to the club. You wouldn't give your crazy uncle the power to post a picture to your Instagram feed. So why would you give a stranger the power to make far more important decisions in your life? Voting is the only way to ensure that your concerns matter. Period.
Moving forward.
All right, we're back. We're back, and then some. And so for our juicy full topic of the day, where do our brains go after all the things that we thought about, all the adulting we've done, all of the where do I escape to in reality, and I thought it would be probably the best way to express the core meaning of this show. What are the ridiculous rabbit holes we go down, the things that we want to solve, the things that we want to be or become. And for me, the biggest question has always been space.
Yes.
Sarah, you down with space? Yeah, the final frontier, right? And so I have a question that it always comes up between me and my cousin all of the time. We've been asking this question since I was 13 years old. How do you live in space? How do you go to space? How do you I think it's easy to take it bit by bit in these little sections that we've made in advance. I'd really like to pick your brain first, Sarah, on some of these things because I've been down these holes many times. So getting your new perspective on these things. I've not known yours.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
please, I would so first of all, do you believe in mankind moving to space or living in space or working in space in general?
See, I'm a little torn because I definitely 100% think that there are extraterrestrials. And if we start venturing out, we're going to piss them off. But I also think we're destroying the Earth. And if we could get more people off of the Earth, then I think it would give the Earth a little time it needs to heal. So I'm a bit torn. I think I love the idea of people living out in space and in colonies, but how would it happen, right? Is it
how do you really get to that? Yes.
Where it's literally communities that are growing their own food and being very they're researching, are they there for that reason? Or is it like WALL-E where we've screwed up the Earth so much and we're just basically just pigging out up in space? So it's which one would it be,
Well, I mean, realistically, it can't be the WALL-E option because we can't mass produce that kind of lazy yet. I'd say maybe we have a few hundred years before we could get that kind of dystopian stupid. But I mean, no, I understand the apprehensiveness to moving to space because it's how do you make it safe for all those people to live out there? I mean, and that's a lot, and that's, I didn't even put that on the list. It's how, I mean, I thought about a lot of things to bring up in this discussion today, but I didn't even, think about scraping the conversation of, how smart do you have to be to live in space? Because, I would like to think that we're all smart enough to know, don't go out that airlock, but if there's anything that,
that we're not.
Yeah, if there's anything that this pandemic...
someone would be just walking off that and walking right into space, into oblivion.
Exactly. There are just some people that just they change the bell curve so much in class that an F and a C can mean the same thing on a scale, So So I just felt what? Now that we broached it, I guess, all right. So first thing about going to space, are we smart enough to go to space? I mean, technically mankind has proved that they can go to space. We have the space station up there. So yes, but society as a whole, I don't think
maybe a top elite people should be up in space.
Maybe,
scientists.
but then now we're creating a 1% in space. And I don't ever feel like I'd be allowed in that 1%, but I'd like to go to space. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but I'd like to go too.
Yeah. See,
like
we'd
to
all
go.
like to go to space. So I think there just needs to be like, I think if we get to a like an understandable like, how can we make space like kid safe? Then it's like idiot safe.
Yeah, exactly.
And then yeah.
People
So
would
then
have to train just to like
so then
up to space. Can they make so anybody could go there? Because if that's the case, yeah. But like as of right now, there'd be a very, very small percent that would even be able to get up there.
exactly, because then that would bring the next spot. Like after being smart enough for space, you have to be fit enough for space.
You have to be fit enough. And I didn't realize, now that when I knew we were going to talk about this topic, I've watched videos and did some research or whatever. But like, yeah, you have to be physically very, very strong just to be able to withstand the things that you would have to do in space on like an everyday basis.
Yeah.
Or just getting up there, like, withholding the pressure of
how many
up
G
there.
forces can you take on your chest as like you have millions of tons of gasoline exploding behind your buttocks and you're propelled into space as your brain rips to shreds inside of your skull? Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. No, human beings are not built for that. So then the question is like, how do we make ourselves all built for that?
I mean, that's like all of us. I mean, I think they trained like 2 hours a day up in space, but like I don't know how much they would be training just to go up to space. Like what's the training leading up to it?
That's a lot of cardio. Lot of cardio. That's more cardio than a whole swim team and a track and field team combined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
I don't think many people would have the determination even to get through the working out part just to get to, them to be able to get to space. So this is
slowly leading towards, what you're telling me is this is slowly leading towards a Wall-E future happening, because if we're trying to get everyone to space, but not everyone's fit for space, we're going to have a lazy way to get to space.
Exactly. So I do think it probably would.
Yeah, damn it! You're right.
Being a Wall-E situation.
Yeah.
Because most of us wouldn't be able to get up there. So, we'd have a Wall-E situation.
Yeah, no, we would totally have a Wall-E. I mean, we already have one on our hands. Like, we're living in an idiocracy as it is. So, like, it's not. Yeah, no. I mean, hey, you know what? Actually, look at William Shatner going to space. A fat, befuddling man with no real understanding of the of space and its mechanics went to outer space, and I'm sure he probably had like a Coke and an ice cream while he was up there too. But it's just like, yeah, woof, yeah, it's there.
Which reminds me, I did see something pretty cool that they for like NASA, they actually make like amazing gourmet food.
Yes, they do.
Going up in space,
they
and then
really
they freeze dry it. But like, huh?
Yeah, no, I astronaut rations are amazing. Like astronaut rations are actually one of the only. I went
to the museum when I was younger and getting like astronaut food and being like, oh my god, this tastes like shit. This is what they have to like eat up in like space.
Yep, you poor people. The sacrifice you make for your country, for efforts, and then nowadays you're like, fuck, I want to go to space too. These guys have got it the best.
Right? They're really like really, really good stuff.
Well, shit, you could die any day, so that could be your last meal at any time. Like you're in a vacuum. Yeah. Like anything could go wrong. That better be the best. That better be the best mac and cheese you ever eat, because tomorrow we could get sucked out of an airlock.
Yeah, so they better. There's so much love probably in that.
Yeah,
they just know. Like,
exactly. That's why space blueberry cobbler is better than real blueberry cobbler. Yeah, no, I get you. All right. Well, so then we've established that if we're going to space, we're going the lazy way, because we just like picking up the tab on mankind. Well, then at that point, like what? How do we interact in space? Like, I mean, currency-wise, like, space has a lot of opportunities, because not many people realize that, like, gold comes from meteors. It comes from the stars. Like, gold is not a naturally formed object on Earth. It's deposited here by by astrological activity. So, like, why are we fighting about gold on Earth and why aren't we mining gold in the stars, you know?
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that's where gold came from. So gold comes from space.
Yes, gold comes from space. Gold is not made in a natural deposit on Earth. Gold is, and that's why you find it in little flecks and pieces throughout the Earth, because it burns up and turns into little meteorites, and then it shoots into the ground, and it's like the meteorite blood spattered it through another rock, and that's why it's.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
that's have so much of it. Then that's crazy.
Yes, and that's what's crazy is like that Earth was hit with just enough to where there would be enough gold for it to be the currency of the world. Like, we just decided that this was the item to be. Yeah. And then we're lucky that Earth has enough of it randomly. I mean, and that's the thing. We're going to run out of gold. Yeah. Like, we only have so much gold that's actually in the reserves, but then there's so much gold that gets mined and gets used for technology. Like, the reason why iPhones cost so much is because of how much gold goes into them.
Really?
Yeah, that's why iPhones are like bomb products.
That's think we would have that much gold.
Yes, so because
many asteroids.
Gold conductors gold is one of the best conductors. So the microchip systems that like all the interfaces inside of your phone are gold.
So is that a plan at some point for them to like get more gold on is there gold on Mars?
That's the thing.
Where is the gold?
The gold
asteroid.
It's gonna have to. Yeah.
Like where?
So, but then they're gonna have to go on an asteroid hunt because not every asteroid is gonna be made out of gold. So they're gonna have to come up with like spectrometers, and we're gonna have to be able to like look at an asteroid belt and say, "Oh, the gold's over there." You know, or we're going to have like crazy ass like miners in space who are going from asteroid to asteroid looking for gold. I don't know. You know, I mean, I guess that's for like the fat cats of industry to figure out right there. But like, I would think that it's like
the gold rush, like space gold rush.
Yeah, the space rush.
Will it happen?
Yeah.
The space rush. Damn, I never knew that. I can't believe I never knew that. Gold comes from asteroids. It's not something that's like the Earth makes on its own.
See? Look at
and
that.
It's only a certain amount.
Stick around in this podcast. You'll learn crazy new things every day, kids. All right.
Crazy new shit.
So, I mean, right there, that's enough to go to space. Is like, there's gold in space. Okay? We're going to make it, fat kid, lazy kid, stupid kid friendly. So it's Wall-E safe. So then at that point, we're ready to colonize, but like, I really don't think we should be going to Mars.
No?
No. Like, I think Mars is way too far. Like, I think we should just figure out how to like, make a space station, like, hotel that like, orbits around the Earth to start.
Exactly. Like,
you know?
I'm thinking in a 21st century style, right?
Exactly!
Like, make their own big planet. And it just floats up in space, kind of close by Earth. And we can get, like, supplies easily because it's close by.
Exactly. You could have a cool space elevator that goes down to the Atlantic Ocean and just, like, send stuff up and down it. Yep. No, it'd be cool. Absolutely cool. And totally feasible. And then if there's problems, we can always get to it and fix it. Like, and then that, it just like, we get like, we'd need like a few generations used to just like living in rotation in space. And then eventually people who just like want to live in space. But like somewhere in there, we're also going to have to figure out like synthetic gravity because we don't have that in space yet. Because like that, I think that's like the hardest part about.
Figure that out because we can't be all floating around up in our communities. Like we need to be able to walk around.
Well, especially since lack of gravity is like the biggest reason why we can't do deep space travel. So like the human body can only withstand being in space for like 8 to 10 months, and then it just starts getting brittle. Like if you spend more than like a year in space and you came back to Earth, you would break a hip like walking down the stairs.
Oh, it makes you weak, huh?
Yeah. So, like, you become deficient in a lot of things for your time spent in space.
Probably like the pressure of everything, you think?
Exactly.
Like
Well, you don't have any
bones?
gravity. You don't have gravity induced on your body for a whole year. So then the thing is like, it takes like 11 months to get to Mars. So by the time that you get to Mars, your body's going to hate living in space. So it's like, if anybody went to colonize Mars, that whole colony's doomed. Like, those guys are doomed from, like, day one. Like, I think, like, the furthest that we should figure out in the beginning is, like, a little space station around the Earth, maybe some colonies on the moon for the millionaires, you know, just enough space to set up a commissary and a PX, because I find that if the Marines can figure out how to put a subway and an MCX exchange, then democracy and capitalism aren't too far behind. So if you can put a subway there, freedom will make it there.
Wait, say that again?
I said, if you could put a subway there, freedom will make it there. That's like a secret motto of the Marine Corps. I swear. Like, I mean, look at it. Like, am I not? I'm not wrong. Like, I mean, you want to go invade another country? Like, the Marines show up, and the next thing you know, there's a McDonald's and an MCX and a Subway, and then the next thing you know, democracy and a metropolis of existence are there. So all I'm saying is, like, maybe we just need to, like, send the Marines to the moon and give them, like, a couple months, and they'll figure it out, and then we can all show up.
They'll get that shit figured out.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And at that point, we could have easily colonized space. But, like, so, all right. So we figured out, all right, the Marines are going to get us there, but it's going to be kind of like Wally Dopey-ish. I mean, we're kind of like, but that's good. But we live in an idiocracy right now anyway. So that's like, I mean, that's the best we're going to get. So, I mean, well, then at that point, like, well, what do you see the future of space being like? What's like, do you think politics would change?
Ooh, I don't know. It's like, who would run outer space then, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it would cause even more wars, because people would try to claim space.
Well, I mean, but then, like,
it's fucking air. You know?
Yeah.
If there's anything, people are selfish, and people are going to try to claim whatever they could. So I would be curious on, like, who would try to run the rules of space.
Well, okay. No, I give it to you there. I mean, the Cold War is never over. So, I mean, God only knows that, like, the first fight in space is going to be against, like, communists or something. So, no, I get you. I absolutely get you. I think it's just more like the wide-eyed, like, sci-fi fan kid in me would like to think that, like, we don't have to think about that factor, but you're very right in thinking of it. So, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It would be nice, though, huh?
It would be nice. Okay, so there's something that you brought up at the beginning of this discussion when I brought up space. You immediately went to the coolest topic, and that's why, like, we have to save it to the end of the discussion. Extraterrestrials. Yes. So you think that there's life out there?
100% yes.
And you think it resents us?
There is some compelling ass evidence that I think there is no doubt extraterrestrials. What do you think? I feel like you're so logic, though. I feel like you'd be
I have to say that, like, there is... Statistically, it is dumb to think that we are alone. But, in the infinite possibility of life, what we consider life on our fundamental level of being is different than what other life forms could consider as life. So, like, could there be, like, space ducks on another planet somewhere living their happiest space duck life? Or tardigrades on a minuscule level, or like space whales or something. I don't know. You know? So infinite possibility. So I will lead it to nature to decide that there is something infinitely possible living at the other end of the universe or potentially somewhere between here and there. Do I believe that there's intelligent life out there? Yes, and it is probably more intelligent than us, and we should probably watch ourselves.
Absolutely.
And as a note to that, I really think that, like, man, you know, like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, you know, and it really only, like, and I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but it really just came about when I watched Thor Ragnarok for, like, the 100th time. And it's because, I mean, you watch the Marvel movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, Thor is the dumbest guy in outer space. He's hot, we can all agree on that, but, like, on an IQ level for, like, denizens of the cosmos, he's your surfer bro of outer space, right?
Yeah.
But
I would like him. Yeah.
But in applied mechanics of, like, physics and knowledge, even the dumbest surfer bro in outer space is smarter than the smartest person on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So in thinking about that, it's just like, mankind is ill-equipped for living in space, and if it is to encounter another species, it is going to be incomprehensibly a million times smarter than us because it figured out how to get here.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's something that we haven't even figured out
Absolutely.
yet. We don't know how to do anything without, like, cutting down trees or burning dinosaurs, which I'm sure that, like...
If they aren't already here, maybe they're already here. There is theories that they're actually here living in the ocean. Have you heard that? Have you heard that theory?
Yes, I've heard that theory. I've also heard the theory that, like, the Earth is hollow, and I've also heard the theory that we live in a dome, and I've heard the theory that there's people on the dark side of the moon, but it's really just the Chinese growing alfalfa sprouts.
Did you see the video though? Okay, so what was I think it was 2020. I think it was December 2020. There was a UFO on Oahu. This weird blue, like, cylinder thing that a bunch of people, like, chased, and it went down in the ocean, and they tried to find it, and they couldn't find it. Did you see that?
Yeah, but, like...
What do you think about that?
A lot of those things tend to just be, like, reflections, and then people don't realize it. So then it's like, you have, like, a bomber being tested, and it's got, like, reflective material for it to, like, you know, not get hit by low ground penetrating radar, and so that way it's not seen by other ships on the horizon. So then, like, you know, I mean, and a lot of those things can be just about anything. And most of them are usually explained pretty well afterwards, and not in the kind of way like, oh my god, that's totally a UFO cover-up, but in a lot of cases of, like, flash of light. So, like, the thing that I found the funniest about, especially being, like, someone who spent a lot of time in the Midwest and in farming country, is, like, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get, like, people out in the middle of nowhere and go, I saw these crazy lights, and it came in a triangular formation in the middle of the night, and then it just disappeared. You know what else flies in a crazy-ass pattern every night over the skies of California, and we know they're not UFOs because we're just dumb hayseeds? There are RC planes with prop motors that go in predestined commanded rotations above fields. And they're essentially like old-age drones. They're just RC drones. And they do all of, like, the crop dusting. And in a lot of cases, those things are easily mistaken for as UFOs. I really think that if we had, like... Huh?
I want to hear your take on this, then.
I really think that in general, like, the idea that contact has been made is sensationalized by people wishing that there was something greater out there. I think that if extraterrestrials did notice us, they would have already taken advantage of us by now and made contact, because there's no real reasoning into thinking that mankind is so special that it merits a conspiracy to hide, like, one of the greatest interactions of mankind. Also, like, throw in the fact that we would obviously be ill-equipped for stopping aliens. So there is no way that this magical Hollywood version of, like, aliens show up and go, take me to your leader, and then our president has figured out how to talk to the aliens, and they get them to sign a fucking space treaty and open Area 51 and the Men in Black. No. Because if something showed up from outer space, it would be smart enough to melt our fucking brains and subdue us under its own thumb and subject us to its worldly rule. So if there are aliens living among us, be fucking blessed they haven't enslaved us, because we're obviously way too dumb for them to take advantage of at that point, and they realize that they're just watching ants play in a jar.
Can't argue with that. What do you think about cow mutilation then?
What do you mean? As far as like cow mutilation events, most cow mutilation events aren't proven to have come from anything crazier other than like local animals and then like crazy nut jobs. So like, and I haven't really seen any major like cow mutilation in the news like on a regular basis. Like I think if anything,
no,
like
it's more like I feel like it was a lot. Or something that like the cow mutilation was like popular and you would hear about it.
I feel that these days it's more and more light formations are being noted, but then in a lot of cases there's no original video. And that's what the problem is that like most of the video that you see on YouTube is obviously doctored. So then you have people that are just like telling a story and they're recounting it. And then they put that little thing down the bottom that says this is an artist concept of the event. And then eventually someone reuses that video enough times to where it shows up without the part that says that it's a reenactment. And then people just take it as real. I'm actually like, I'm very opposed to most like they're out there conspiracies about aliens because I think they're just so poorly founded. I also think that like, in a lot of cases, like, mankind thinks it's way too smart. Like, I think the sadder part is that the universe is vast and we haven't run into anyone yet. And if we have, then we were probably, like, we ran into one and they didn't get word back yet because these guys were, like, scouts sent millions of light years out or something, you know? But I think that, I think that it'll be a long time before we figure out are extraterrestrials real and is time travel possible. And there's way too hard of a question to figure out both.
File too until we could actually solidify the answers to that.
Well,
it's fun to talk about.
Well, I mean, it would totally be possible, but like nobody, like I don't know. I mean, you have to splice like time and space in itself, but that's a whole nother bag of worms, and I think that's a story for a whole nother time. And I think we could go on forever about that, but I really think that we covered like, you know, how plausible it would be to go to space and how we would do it. And I think that we're all problem solved. Not that it's a problem, but we went there, we did that. Yeah. And you know what? And with that, I'd like to thank y'all for coming on this journey with us today. We'll see you again next week Sunday. Hope to see you again. We'll talk about more of what's crazy going on in the news and, maybe solve a few things along the way. Maybe learn something new. Sarah, you got anything to say to the lovely people out there in the internetverse?
No, but I'm just, thanks for watching, guys. Coming down the rabbit hole with us, and hope you dive on in the next episode.
Awesome. All right, everybody, thank you once again. We will see you next week. Roll credits. Woo!
Bye!
Rabbit Holes is a Manawa production. This episode was produced by Kawika Hoke and Sarah Rodriguez. Make sure to subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast platforms to add our weekly episodes to your queue.